Ruined it.
Wait, were you about to count down? I thought you said you were going to count down. Oh, I thought you were going to record yourself counting down, and that was going to be in your like kind of dubstep intro sequence, like 10.
Yeah. Oh,
9.
yeah. We're not that cool.
Huge build up to the bass drop.
Well, listener, if we kept that in, then you have been introduced to our guest today. Today we have a guest as we discuss a very popular $1 billion making movie.
That doesn't narrow it down these days.
No. Yeah, that should.
Like a new one every month.
This is the movie that made $1 billion this week.
And it cost $1 trillion to make.
So today we have a guest, a friend of ours, a friend of Sean and mine, someone we've known for at least a year and a half.
It's been about that long.
Yeah. No, today we have a guest, and listener, if you're astute, you've heard us reference this guest in some ways.
Really?
Yeah, clearly he's not astute. He
doesn't listen to the shit.
That was mean. I don't know why I said that.
I thought we were just video chatting.
But this is our guest and friend named Adam, and Adam is a librarian, which is relevant because many times you'll hear Sean and I reference an idea of Adam's in particular, or at least when I think about it, Adam was very instrumental in helping us realize how sexist the movie Jurassic World was.
Oh yeah,
yes.
yeah. That Jurassic World hates women.
Yes, but the T-Rex likes women because
T-Rex does.
Didn't he like come in at the end and like gave like a maybe I'm totally making this up.
Basically like bowed to
right,
her.
exactly like my lady.
Yeah, kind of like winked.
Right.
I will follow you, Bryce Dallas.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that you sprinted from me in those high-heeled shoes.
Yeah, you ran
earned
faster.
my respect. This Indominus Rex, though, is just a jerk.
Right. He was
Kill
a sexist pig.
Yeah. But then the irony is that the most sexist dinosaur of all, which was the giant whale thing that ate the British lady, ended up killing the Indominus
Right.
Rex.
Yeah.
So sexism killed sexism.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That actually, I think the pterodactyls were more sexist because they were like picking her apart, and the whale just
Tossing
finished her off. And,
Like maybe mercifully.
And took down some of the pterodactyls while he was at it.
The whale actually jumped in, and it was actually the CGI director who wrote that in because he realized the screenwriter was so sexist by having this 5-minute sequence of just terrorizing this woman. Like, okay, I'm going to edit a whale in here that takes this woman out.
There was a whale dinosaur, right?
The screenwriter was like,
Oh, then we can continue to beat her up.
it's because a lot of movies these days are written by 15-year-old boys in Hollywood, I think.
Uh-huh.
However, I wonder if that will be our conclusion at the end of this episode, because we are
Rogue
talking
One.
about Rogue One.
Right.
Written by 15-year-old boys or not? It's the true question that we're investigating. Rogue One, a baffling film, one might say. Why does it exist at all?
That's a great question. They even ask that question in the movie, I think.
Why did we make this movie, Jin Erso?
Right. Well, I was...
Why are we filming right now?
When I was reading things about this movie, I saw like most of the haters were hating on this movie because they were saying it doesn't need to exist, which is like the weakest criticism. Like, isn't that true of everything? Does anything need to exist?
There's so much to that question.
Right.
They're making such a vast philosophical argument.
You could say that, about pretty much every movie that comes out.
Right.
Why why does the Avengers need to exist?
No, Titanic
doesn't.
needed, that was necessary.
That's true.
We needed closure.
Yeah.
Titanic needed to exist. Fight Club needed to exist. Operation Dumbo Drop.
Needed to exist.
Yeah, needed to exist.
Yeah.
But this movie, according to those haters, did not need to exist.
Right.
Yeah.
I think those are the people who are really, really into Star Wars. And hey, really be into a movie series as much as you want, or a show series. I think movies and shows do give us a great mythology and a way of understanding truth or something like that. But recently in the newest Star Wars trailer, apparently you can see Luke Skywalker wearing a necklace that has a red dot in it. And all these people are like, is that Darth Vader's final kyber crystal from his lightsaber?
Oh.
Do we really need to have such intense nerds?
Actually,
They need to exist.
yeah, right. Once you start asking that question, that's a really quick road to genocide. Does this need to exist?
Yeah, you're just getting an uncharted territory.
Right. But I think I like intense nerds. That's why I kind of like the Star Wars fandom, even though I'm not. I don't really know how I feel about Star Wars at large. Part of me says Star Wars is fucking stupid. But I also get goosebumps whenever I hear that. Like that TIE fighter.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I get goosebumps anytime I see scrolling text.
Right. Which this movie did not have.
I know, and that's,
Yeah.
I think the first time I watched it, listener, I really hated it. And I left thinking, why does this movie exist? This movie doesn't have to exist. And that was probably the extent of my argument. I felt like I'd been duped. And I think the first time I was watching it that I didn't like it was when it set it up like it was going to have scrolling text. You know, it's like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and the same way every other movie has looked. I'm like, okay, how are they going to do the scrolling text? And then they just do this rapid cut and go, it's like a loud noise and a spaceship.
Right.
It's
Well, we're
we're
in
not
it.
doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not
You
ready.
jerk.
Yeah, you haven't prepared me. I haven't entered into this movie.
Right.
And then when they finally have this intro part, which is, to me, basically a recreation of the beginning of Inglourious Bastards, except in outer space.
You're very right.
Wait, remind me. What? I don't even remember how this movie began.
Basically, Colonel Hans Landa shows up at the
my
family
God,
farm.
I
That's
was trying to
right.
hide realities,
You're right,
but
that
needs
is-
something from this guy.
Oh my God, you are so right.
Au
And then the
revoir,
girl gets away.
Genoso.
Au revoir,
And then the title comes up, and it's, Rogue One. And this is the second thing that pissed me off, was that then the score comes in, and it's like, dun, dun, the same first two notes as John Williams' score. And so my heart bursts with excitement that I'm about to get the da 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 da, and then it just goes da 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 da. And you're like, oh, it's not John Williams anymore. We changed it. It made you think it was the same for two notes. I was like, fuck you,
John Williams sucks. He's so
John
old.
Williams. What a sellout.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you bring that up, Sean, because I do think making those distinct differences, because I don't know the Star Wars kind of universe as well as other people, and sorry if I did offend super nerds. I think they keep us on our toes in a good way.
Since they're all listening.
Us not nerds,
Us mediocre nerds.
us cool people.
But I appreciated that those different steps that it took, because I didn't really know exactly the plot of this movie beforehand, and then as it became revealed, I realized how it's not the episodes 1, 2, and 3, or not the new 7, 8, etc. that they're making. It's it's a totally divergent storyline, and anyway, I just with that in the background, I was able to watch the movie with a certain sense of oh, okay, they really actually had to create something new here. So let's see how they did it. They couldn't just be oh, we know you loved Star Wars Episode 4, so we're going to remake it.
Ooh. Point of contention here.
Oh.
See, the haters from Episode 4, they all just said that. It's just. I don't know what I'm talking about. I mean, the haters of Episode 7.
Yeah, exactly.
John Boyega
Oh,
was not in Rogue One, therefore it wasn't good.
right, that's true. That's the rule. I think that should be actually the verdict that we come to is not, was this movie written by a 15-year-old boy? We know it wasn't. But the verdict should be, should this movie be totally destroyed?
Yeah.
I don't think it should be.
It should be Death Star this.
Yeah, should we Death Star?
So I think probably again, listener, if you're listening to this, you have conceded that there are going to be spoilers. And before the episode started, we wondered if anyone listens to any of our episodes, and we concluded no. But then we wondered if anyone did, would they ever take the chance of listening to an episode about a movie they hadn't seen? And we thought, well, clearly they have to assume there's spoilers. Anyway, there are. And I think maybe it'd be a good idea if we go OG on this and give a quick 5-minute rundown of the plot. That sound good with everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
As
Adam,
hard as that task is, I think it's so hard
Very
to
hard.
recount the plot of any Star Wars movie.
Well, except for Episode 4 and 7, since they're the same, right?
no, they're still hard, but you only have to do it once for both of them.
Oh, that's true. Just change the names. Just edit the names over the first
The plot
names.
of Rogue One is just one sentence from Episode 4. We got the Death Star plans.
Oh, interesting.
I was thinking that about, because I was really trying to question, do I like Star Wars? I mean, I need to stop being so complicated about it. I definitely do, even though I guess it's not my favorite sci-fi or fantasy story. And part of it is because episodes 4 through 6, I could not tell you the plot of those movies, even though I've seen them so many times. The plots are complicated.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to get some joy out of that, Adam, because it's your turn.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Yep.
You have the task.
Special
of,
guest treat.
Yeah.
I'm probably the worst person to do that to, because one of my criticisms of this movie is I don't know. It's not a criticism of myself, it's of the movie. I don't know a single character's name.
That's good, though. That gives us something to play with and
Okay.
certainly questions to ask about.
That's true.
If we can't know their names, should the movie even exist?
Oh, right. God, we are being like movie eugenics.
We will now
I
determine
was
what
thinking about
movies are erased.
ontologists.
That's way less controversial.
But eugenics, I mean, I think definitely a theme of the Star Wars universe.
Oh, well, there is that is a criticism of the episodes 1 through 3 that I agree with, which is there's a lot of racist undertones and subtext. I think to episodes 1 through 3 that are totally. Yeah, they're there.
Yeah. And I can't help but think that it was all George Lucas.
Right.
I agree. Well, yeah, those trilogy.
Make him like this.
The banking plan will sign your treaty. That was so anti-Semitic.
that general who has a very thick, Eastern Asian accent or something like that.
Right. Well, right. All the villains have these Eastern European accents, and there was, and Jar Jar Binks is just
That's the only way that sentence could logically end.
Right. Okay, so the plot of this movie. The first 20 minutes are extremely confusing. So let me try to weed through them. So, like you said, Sean, it opens sort of Inglourious Basterds style. We have this person from the Empire land on this planet, and he is searching for this family, and we watch the family as they send the husband sends the wife and the daughter into hiding. And then we see this confrontation between this person from the Empire and this guy who is this actor? He's like a Swedish actor,
Mads
right?
Mikkelsen or something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
The guy that plays Hannibal Lecter in the TV show.
Oh, yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I know I recognize him.
He's
So
the bad guy in Casino Royale.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's right, Mr. Bond. It's causing you to perspire.
My poker hand is better.
That's not a real line, is it?
Just know there's a poker scene, and I think he had the better head.
My poker hand is better.
That movie came out right when everyone was getting into Texas Hold'em, and they totally rode that train.
Oh, man.
Oh my God, that's so true.
My poker
Wrote
hand
it
is
ad
better.
infinitum.
I like my burn card. I don't know. Edit that out. So anyways, basically this guy from the Empire who, does anybody remember his name? He's a big character.
Oh, wait, you mean the we're still talking about Hannibal Lecter?
No, the
guy
overacting.
Yes.
Oh, the guy with kind of the weird lisp.
Yes.
Yeah, the overactor.
Yeah.
Hans Landa 2-point story.
He's like a colonel or an admiral or something.
Yeah.
He's pretty high up there in the galactic hierarchy.
What is his name?
Yeah, his name
is...
I just had him. Anyway.
I got it. It's Orson Krennic.
Krennic.
Oh, yeah.
God,
Orson
another
Krennic.
stupid name. Star Wars is like ripe with dumb names, made up languages. If I don't know if the 15-year-old wrote the screenplay, but a 15-year-old invented all the languages in Star Wars.
Yes.
But so he essentially wants Ben Mendelsohn to come back to work for the Empire to help develop this weapon. And he says no, but then the wife is killed in this confrontation and the daughter goes into hiding. So the husband's basically captured, and then we fast forward like 13 years and we meet all these characters at once. And essentially the engine that's driving this movie is the fact that the Empire is developing the Death Star. So we learn that this movie sort of takes place somewhere between episode 3 and episode 4 of the Star Wars saga. And the main character, Jyn Erso, this young woman, looks like she's in her 20s. She's the daughter that we saw at the beginning of this movie. She is rescued by the Rebel Alliance from prison. I don't even know if we know why. She was just like bad bitch. Yeah. And she is involved in this plot where essentially a pilot from the Empire. This is so confusing.
It is.
I had to rewind because I watched it a second time, listener. I had to rewind it probably 20 or more times throughout my viewing of the movie just to like figure out what had happened in apparently a split-second moment that advanced the plot. I
had to do that meeting where Jyn Erso meets Diego Luna's character, I think Cassian
Andor.
I
just looked that up.
Is Andor, is that like a family in Star Wars? That sounds so familiar. Maybe I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings.
No, it does sound familiar. I'm not sure why.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but that scene where basically they describe the whole conflict that the movie is going to navigate, I had to rewind twice. I was like, who? Because everyone's name is mumbled.
Yeah.
And
Well, they bring these names into it as if we should know who these people are. It's like if you say the name Saw Gerrera really quickly and I have no idea that Forrest Whitaker is named Saw Gerrera, I'm going to have no idea who you're talking about. And you should have just been like, Forrest Whitaker raised you?
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Maybe that could be a special feature of the DVD is they replace the names with the actors' names.
Make it much easier to understand the whole story.
Yeah. But
we'll take you to James Earl Jones.
No! But hopefully they just take that Microsoft like Office dubbing voice like Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah. You were raised by Forrest Whitaker.
Or also, if you say Saw Gerrera really fast and mumble it, I am only thinking of the receptionist at the school where I work named Sue Carrera.
That's a problem. They should have looked into that.
Right.
It would have made it more comprehensible for you and anyone else who knows Sue.
So essentially, this pilot from the Empire has defected, and he says that he has information about this weapon that's being built, which we discover is the Death Star.
It's a planet killer.
It's a planet. Cheesy. So corny. And he is in the custody of Sir Forrest Whitaker. He's not knighted, but he's knighted in my heart.
But his eye is knighted.
Right. Not the rest
the
of
only
them.
lazy eye to be knighted.
It carries the heavy burden of the crown. That's why it says.
Half on him, half on Tom York.
Right. One eye to heaven, one eye to the earth. He exists between the spiritual and the temporal realms.
Wait, who's Tom York?
He's the frontman of Radiohead.
Oh.
He's got also a very famous lazy eye.
Nice.
It's not quite Whitakerian, But
Why has Tom York not been cast as a villain in a Star Wars movie? I feel like he would make a great villain, a silent
he would.
schemer.
You didn't even know who he was 10 seconds ago. Yeah, he'd be great. He's got the look of one.
No, I mean, I've seen his picture, and I know Radiohead. I didn't know his name.
Do you know Radiohead?
Yeah, I know that. Tom York.
You don't listen to Radiohead.
What's your favorite album? Don't tell me OK Computer.
No, because I don't like that. That's they did Bones.
The show?
They do have that song Bones.
That's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
from the Bends.
Yeah, but it would be funny if Tom York were a villain in a Star Wars movie, and then Radiohead got to do like the final score, or how like in the Lord of the Rings, the final song in every movie was like specially written by like Enya or someone like that, like and a special Star Wars intro by Radiohead, and it's like the Star Wars theme, but with a very Radiohead like spin where it's like slow and ambient.
The way they did that for Romeo and Juliet, or the way Faith Hill did that for Armageddon.
Oh, Faith Hill, really?
Yeah, or was it Faith Hill?
Oh no, it was Steven Tyler.
Oh, whoops. Oh, Faith.
Often confused.
Aren't they the same person? Faith Hill, did she do it for Pearl Harbor? I feel like the 90s was all about, let's have this, like...
You're right.
Actually, they still do that. Never mind.
Yeah, like with a special closing song by Ludacris.
That's not in the movie, it's in the credits.
Yeah.
Like, that's what My Heart Will Go On is for Titanic.
You're right. Yeah,
they found a way to bring that into the score, too, through the movie, right?
Did they? Is that song in the score?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
Maybe
I don't know.
not.
I don't want to challenge your Titanic knowledge. You love that movie,
or
right?
James Horner's Legacy.
Is he the score maker?
The score?
Yeah, he's the score maker. I'm the score keeper. Okay, sorry. So, anyways, so Jyn Orso. So, okay. So this pilot, who is played by Riz Ahmed, who is, I feel like, really...
Wait, that's the actor's name?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
the character is named...
Togo Balluno.
Close. Bodhi Rook.
Bodhi. So he's cool.
He's like a bodhisattva.
Right.
And he's a rook. He's a strategic piece.
Oh, right.
And like,
oh my
go ahead.
God.
You're
There's
right.
a lot of like, that's one of the funny things about Harry Potter is, there's almost like a level of determinism that's in their names.
Yeah, totally.
That, what's an example? Like,
Severus Snape.
Right. Okay. So he's not going to be a good
You're
guy.
going to go... Salazar Slytherin clearly has an influence on you.
And I guess that's even in the Harry Potter like mythology, is like your house that you belong to is tied to some essential part of your identity. Like all of the Weasleys are Gryffindors. You're just born into that.
Yeah, you have no choice.
Yeah.
It's very fatalistic.
Right. And Saw Gerrera, I mean, Saw.
Very tough.
The movie
Gerrera.
franchise. And Gerrera War.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're basically, like a guerrilla war.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And really violent like the Saw movies.
Yeah. But maybe you'll have a soft-spoken voice that I can barely understand.
And a really dramatic use of your oxygen ventilator.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen an oxygen ventilator used like that since Blue Velvet.
I love that sentence.
And he seemed to have a same degree of satisfaction that Dennis Hopper did when he was about to commit horrifically perverted things on Isabella Rossellini. Except then he just wouldn't do anything. So I guess Disney wasn't willing to go all the way.
No, they weren't willing to go full David Lynch.
Yeah. Speaking of, David Lynch was originally slated to direct Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi.
What?
Yeah, he was originally attached to that product, but I think because Dune sucked so bad. It was either because Dune sucked so bad or he did Dune instead.
Good.
I think it might have been the latter, because I think Dune came out in 84. So
feel
yeah,
like-
we were close to getting a Lynch Star Wars.
I feel like all of American history would be different if Lynch made
Lynch
Return of
made the
Jedi.
Ewoks.
Right. David Lynch is a little like Heidegger. I talk about him all the time. I know zero things about him.
Yeah,
He has very good hair.
his great hair. Yeah, he's a close friend of Laura Dern's.
Oh, really?
Is it true?
That is true. Yeah.
Jealous of him then.
What's that?
I'm jealous of him. I love Laura Dern.
Yeah, if someone doesn't love Laura Dern, I question their validity.
Yeah, I don't love that.
Across the board.
You question whether or not they should exist.
That's what I start questioning.
Okay, so Forrest Whitaker plays this character named Saw Gerrera.
He's basically like a android almost, because he's like half like most of his limbs aren't real, right? He's basically just a torso,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
a Jin torso, and he like. Do you notice how the ventilator sound was the same as the Darth Vader sound?
Was it?
Oh
It
yeah,
was
you're
very
right.
very similar. Like when I heard it, I thought of Darth Vader, and it almost made me think like, are we to assume that this entire cinematic universe has one type of ventilator? Or are we to assume that, like, Saw Gerrera is, like, half good because we can see him, but he's kind of evil-ish? Maybe they hint at it. Or
He's
just-
a radical.
He's a radical rebel,
extremist.
Yeah, but he's, as he reveals later, he's very interested in saving the dream.
Yes. So much so that he's willing to be buried under rocks, like, even though he didn't need to be.
Yeah. Quick fast forward to get to this point. I mean, so Jin, played by Felicity Jones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jin is her name. That's right. So she gets taken into the Rebel Alliance, led by Diego Luna is like one of the key figures, and she's brought into this plot where they have to get the plans made by her, or at least connected to her father, who, you know, was taken at the beginning to build the Death Star. And eventually they have to use her to get access to Saw Gerrera, who's this like rogue, well, I won't say rogue because he's not Rogue One.
No.
No, he is not the Rogue
He's
One.
Ventilator 1.
Yeah, Ventilator 1. And they get to him, and he's like living on the planet where the Empire is like mining these crystals that apparently they need to use for the Death Star, which, interesting, they're also the crystals used for lightsabers.
Yeah, the Kyber crystals.
Kyber crystals, yeah.
Right.
And so they get her to meet with Saw Gerrera, who has received this message from this defected pilot who has come to deliver the message from Galen Erso that apparently there's a weakness, and here's where the plans are. You guys need to all get to it. And then basically right around this time, the Empire decides to test out the Death Star, and they blow up this city where Saw Gerrera has been.
Just
So-
nuke it.
Yeah, they just nuke it, essentially. So, of course, everyone gets away. Forrest Whitaker, Saw Gerrera, just, I guess, decides that his life's gone on long enough. Like, everyone flees, and he's like, I've spent too long running.
In other words,
yeah.
the screenwriter decided his life has gone on long enough.
Or Forrest Whitaker is like, I'll give you 1 month of time.
Yeah, you have to kill my character off quickly.
Yeah. Ventilator 1 had a scheduling conflict.
Yeah, for Panic Room 2.
There's no indication this guy, like, would have just given up his life. Like, it seemed
You're
like he
right.
was pretty into his cause of, like,
You're right.
resisting this empire, but then he just totally accepts that he's about to get blown up, and all of a sudden, like, gives this very Disney inspiring message as
Yeah.
parting words. Save the dream.
Jin, it's a small world after all. And then we just got a moment. Maybe they did that so that they could make people like us laugh, because it was funny. Like, I know it's supposed to be sad, but like, we don't know him well enough, and we haven't sympathized with him enough to like even actually care that he's dead, because he's irrelevant to the rest of the plot.
Right.
He's not mentioned after he dies. Like, maybe
this-
he's mentioned once.
Even the scenes he's in seem pointless. Like when he is torturing, what's
The
his
pilot.
name?
The pilot for
defective
no
pilot.
reason.
Bodhi
this-
Root.
Yeah, Bodhi Rook with this
Bodhi Rook.
octopus. He
Yeah.
like tortures him and then what happens from there?
He loses his mind, kind of. Like, really, one of the side effects is mind loss.
Is that what he said? Because I can understand 50% of the words in this movie.
Yeah, Forrest Whitaker needs to relearn how to talk. I saw him in this movie and in Arrival, and I did not understand him in either.
Oh, wow, you're right. He's not, his voice is going.
Yeah. It's like, rewatch The Crying Game, Forrest, and study how you spoke then.
Yeah.
Do that again.
Or even The Last King of Scotland. He enunciated pretty well, I thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
I never saw it.
What do you think, Matt, about that and Tom York?
Tom York would have been great in The Last King of
He
Scotland.
would have been.
right.
Yeah. I was hoping for that.
He's in the sequel, The Second to Last King of Scotland, which merges that storyline with The Last Samurai. It's in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, they decided to make a cinematic universe out of The Last King of Scotland.
Right, the last of things.
The Last of the Mohicans is also in that.
Yeah, The Last Jedi, I heard, is a new...
Yeah, at the end of it,
film.
just Daniel Day-Lewis as the guy from Last of the Mohicans is going to show up like, I hear you have a rebel problem. He's going to be holding like a
I'm
musket.
Hawkeye.
That's the end. That's the last. That's the last scene, and everyone in the movie theater's screaming.
Like, oh my God, it's Day-Lewis.
He's a method actor.
post-credit
Did you know
sequence.
that?
Shit, they got Day-Lewis for the next one. It's gotta be good.
One of my favorite things on Earth is to combine movies into a cinematic universe and imagine what it would be like to have this character come in at the very end.
Right.
End credits of Rogue One, Daniel Day-Lewis appears as Hawkeye from Last of the Mohicans.
He will save us.
Oh my gosh.
Sean, I'm impressed with how succinct your plot was. That was a task because this movie is complicated.
It is, yeah. I had to really... I think I spent about 3.5 hours actually watching it the second time, and all of which was spent trying to figure out what the hell was happening.
Right.
Yeah. And eventually it made sense. So it was like, okay, the screenwriters at least know what's happening, because one of the threads of this podcast has been with certain movies, we're pretty sure the screenwriters have no fucking idea what's actually happening. Like Fast and Furious, Fate of the Furious, and like Inferno. It's like, at some point, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, at least this one does make sense. Like, you can apply logic to it. It moves probably way faster than a movie should, and it's impossible to follow with all the stupid names. But
And planets
Yeah.
and all the stupid stuff.
But one of the problems with my rapid run through was it missed the introduction of two pretty great characters.
Oh, I'm excited.
Absolutely.
I think you know who I'm talking about.
C3PO,
Oh yeah, he is in this, isn't he?
C-3PO.
K2,
AKA
Urso?
that new droid. It's like, okay, in The Force Awakens, we basically made R2-D2 into like a cute little puppy, and now let's make C-3PO into like a strong African American.
Oh. You perceived K2SO as African American?
Well, just because of his skin color, I guess.
Wait, I actually have no idea what you guys are talking about.
The stand-up droid who's really sarcastic.
Oh, that's right. That
Yeah.
guy is like, yeah, he's way more sarcastic than Tar is from Interstellar.
Oh, way
Like-
more.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
like
Tars.
his what is it? His humor level is like 99%.
Yeah.
Like so much so that like even though he's a droid and therefore a computer and therefore all his like logical systems take place in an internal method, he like even when no one's around, he'll still make a sarcastic quip like, "Oh, so they're just leaving me here?" Oh, you don't need to say that because you're a computer. You don't externally process anything.
You computed that in less than a fraction of a second.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking that, and it seems that there's almost two types of droid. You know, there's the R2-D2 type that just like beeps and like has a funny,
Is
quirky
cute.
personality and it's cute. And then there's like the C-3PO that speaks and is sassy.
Right. That's why I perceived K2SO as gay.
Oh, really?
I thought he was like a queen, and I'm saying that as a queen, as a wannabe gay queen.
It's just because of like his sassiness.
Yeah, and that's I never really liked C-3PO because C-3PO is so like melodramatic.
Yeah, he's pretty annoying.
He's a wuss.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh no, I'm scared.
It's not fair.
Yeah, but George Lucas thought him up, so of course he's gonna suck.
I heard someone say that all of George Lucas's jokes, clearly, it's like they're jokes written by someone who has no sense of humor.
Yeah. I don't imagine that guy to be funny at all.
Right.
I have
Yeah,
no
like
interest
ever.
in ever meeting him or talking with him.
Jar Jar Binks is a computer's attempt at being funny. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
A computer program was written with AI to make a joke, and it's like, he walks funny, he talks funny.
Floppy
That's
ears.
funny, right?
The only funny parts about the prequels are the parts that he definitely didn't intend to be funny, which happens to be almost the entire movie of all three.
Yes. Yes.
One of my favorite things in American pop culture is the hatred for Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
People
I agree.
hate Jar Jar Binks.
And it was never any other way.
Right.
Like, right when he appeared, everyone hated him.
And then he gives reason to hate him in episode 2. Remember, because
He's like, cool.
Not just that, but I think it might be episode 3 when he votes for no confidence.
Oh, yeah.
in the whoever. I don't know what the
Palpatine.
ridiculous made up parliamentary procedures of Star Wars are.
Oh, yeah. Those weird hovering platforms.
No, he wants to vote emergency powers to who eventually becomes the emperor. It's like,
Yeah.
thanks, Jar Jar.
Yeah, you are clearly a dumbass.
You ruined the galaxy.
Yeah. Which leads to the great conspiracy theory that Jar Jar Binks is truly a Sith Lord.
Yeah. Have
Really?
You ever heard that?
I have never heard
Yeah.
It's a pretty elaborate theory.
I don't know the theory, but my students last year would tell me about it, and I was always very intrigued. Do you know the theory, Sean?
No, I just accept that it's valid.
Oh, I mean, I hope that comes out in like episode 9. Like that would be awesome. Like an aged Jar Jar Binks is just like mowing people down. With
Yeah,
a
maybe
lightsaber.
he's actually there's like the new hologram big guy.
Snoke?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm Snope.
Is it Supreme Leader Snope or something?
Yeah. Which I didn't know in episode 7. I was like, oh my God, that being is enormous. I didn't realize it was a hologram at first.
Same. Yeah. It took 2 viewings for me to realize that.
Yeah. I thought it was just a 50-foot man.
But the 2 characters I referenced a bit back that I breezed through are the 2 Chinese guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
The 2 Chinese guys, you know, in the whole Star Wars universe, we know a little bit about the Force, and Yoda teaches us about the Force, but we've never met anyone who is absolutely infatuated with the Force to like a sexual degree almost.
He's a Force fanboy. He writes Force fan fiction.
And it's just the same line over and over.
Right.
I'm one with the Force is with me. It's like the scene from The Shining at the end.
Right. I was just thinking
Different forms of that.
All work and no play makes Chirrut a Chinese boy.
Makes Chirrut a Jedi.
Chirrut is his name?
Yeah.
Chirrut, that name evokes nothing. It makes me think of a churro, which isn't necessarily a positive
It's
thing.
nothing.
It makes me think of a cricket.
Maybe it's Jiminy Cricket.
It makes me think of an onomatopoeia like Chirrut.
Like the sound of a
Oh, it's like-
lightsaber.
yeah. Or the sound of
Yeah.
the beams. Like, this guy he's so with the Force. He's fighting people way better than a Jedi with eyes, and yet he's blind.
Yeah.
And he's not
a
a
Jedi
Jedi.
with eyes
right?
and a Jedi with a lightsaber.
Yeah, exactly.
He has a wooden pole.
What would you consider him? Would he be like? I mean, he's not really a Jedi, but he's like an ascetic Jedi, almost like he'd be like a Shaolin Jedi, like an extreme, like, right? He's not actually a Jedi, but he's tapped into the Force in an
He's a
extreme way.
monk.
He's a monk. Okay, so
Yeah.
the Jedis would be like people who are like out in the streets and like doing stuff. He's like just contemplating the being of the Force.
Right.
I think
And,
maybe
like-
he would have been a Jedi, but this is a time when the Jedi are like extinct. So he's like living on the Jedi energy and like the Jedi
Oh, you're right.
presence, but he doesn't have like the materials of a Jedi. Like he doesn't just have a lightsaber, which are they tend to be passed down familially. So he's just tapped into it on his own accord through apparently his deep meditations
Right.
and
He's-
repetition of this mantra.
if the Force was in a Christian context, he's not an apostle. Like the apostles were Jedis, and Jesus is the Force. I don't know.
Keep going. It's good.
But he is an evangelist. He's
yeah.
Mark, John. Who are the other ones?
Luke and Matthew.
Matthew, the guy who taught religion.
Chris and Steve.
Yeah. Gary.
Gary and Ron.
Forrest. The evangelist Forrest.
The 9 Gospels. Yeah, exactly. But what amazes me about Chirrut is like he's amazing with the Force. He's like beating up people with no eyes. I mean, he has no eyes. He's beating up people with real eyes. But like I question if he's really that good at it. Like it seems like he has to, like he's like beating people up and he's like walking slowly, which we'll get to later in the movie. But in some ways I'm like, I don't know, maybe we have to get to the part I'm thinking of and I don't want to jump the light beam too fast.
Ooh, yeah, not quite ready to jump into hyperspace.
Yeah, exactly. With Admiral, who is that Admiral?
Oh, you mean like the weird...
Fishman.
The Fishman.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. The one who...
It's a twap!
It's a twat.
It's a twat!
Oh, that was really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, I accidentally...
The listener is going to think that...
Yeah. How did you get Admiral Fish here?
Or the actual soundbite was edited in, but it was Matt.
We did.
So what happens? Oh, go ahead.
I was just, as a final thing on Chirrut, we did have a nice fan theory earlier as to how he got his name, and it was that, well, actually this jumps the gun till later as well, but there's a part where the other Chinese guy who's his good friend, and he's almost like the, if we think of polarities, he's like the opposite polarity of this guy, and that he's got a big gun and like a backpack, and he just shoots people with this gun. He's like, oh, this Chirrut with the Force, like the Force isn't real. And of course they have to come together in the end, but we were saying, I don't think they ever say the name Chirrut in the movie, except one part where that guy yells it. But there's a good chance he just yelled something in Chinese. Like, dude!
Was the cameraman shooting?
And then in post-production, they're like, oh, that sounds kind of like Chirrut.
That's a good name.
That's his name.
Yeah, and I like if you go on Wikipedia and look at Chirrut's name, there's like a odd symbol over the eye. It's not
is that like hat?
It's like a hat. It's like a Chinese hat, actually, like someone in like a rice field would
like
wear.
Lord Raiden.
Like Lord Raiden.
Oh my God, they really did it for that reason, I guarantee.
Yeah,
almost
like
he's the Lord Raiden of Rogue One.
You are so right. He is Lord Raiden. Man, he better come back as like a spirit.
Well, I like that polarity you drew, because you're right. Baze, who is the guy with the gun, is like very hard power. He just, exerts force in a traditional sense.
Two forces.
Right. And Chirrut is like soft power. He uses the force, but he also he adds that, he makes the force such a spiritual type of thing, as opposed to, I know one of the things that was controversial about the Phantom Menace was how the introduction of the midichlorian.
Yes.
It's like,
scientific.
Okay. Right. Like the Force, as Obi-Wan Kenobi described it, was closer to some Taoist idea of like the fabric of being.
Yeah.
But then Qui-Gon Jinn just rolled in and was like, they're actually little tiny microscopic physical things. And some people are born with them. Some people just aren't.
You
it's
have
like
a lot of them.
Right. So the Force is so biologically determined.
Yeah.
As opposed to, the original, it seems like Chirrut brings us back to that sense as the Force is a spiritual, transcendent thing that you could just tap into.
Yeah. And we know from our Face Off episode that anything Chinese would have some kind of emblematic resonance with the yin yang. And so these two guys are like our Chinese yin yang of Rogue One.
There's a lot of dualism in Eastern. I don't know if that's actually true.
They talk about that word a lot.
Right.
Now, I don't know if it'd be too early to jump into this too, if we want to talk about Chirrut Imwe and Baze Malbus more later. But
their relationship.
Yeah, their relationship. Maybe now's the time. Adam, I know you have a couple interesting things to say about their relationship.
Right. So I know we talked about this. When So this is a big spoiler, but one of the reasons I like this movie is because everybody dies. Like every
I agree.
character dies in this movie, which is pretty big for a Disney movie. And Chirrut and Baze die in a really poignant way that was really touching, especially for the Star Wars universe. I feel like a lot of Star Wars movies have these tender moments that are not emotionally resonant with me. But so Chirrut needs to go and push this button in this final battle in the movie. And he basically sacrifices himself to do it. He walks into this oncoming laser fire and he's chanting his fanboy chant. I'm one with the force is with me. And it seems like the force is working for him because lasers are passing him by. He pushes the switch and then he blows up, like a bomb goes off. And then Baze like screams, Chirrut, which knows, we don't know what that means in Mandarin. He runs over to him and Chirrut is dying in Baze's lap and he puts his hand up, Chirrut does, towards Baze's face in a really tender way, and then Chirrut dies. And then Baze, I guess, decides life is no longer worth living and walks into oncoming laser fire and just takes out a few henchmen. Yeah. And I immediately thought, whoa, they are gay. They're in a romantic relationship. And then Matt, I think
when I watched it, like I wasn't thinking that, but then when you brought that up, it seemed like, oh wow, I hadn't thought about that, but it really is. It reminded me actually of another death scene from a movie with a confirmed gay character that is Independence Day Resurgence.
Oh, you told me that.
Yeah.
Brackish Okun.
Dr. Brackish Okun is gay, and there's a death scene, and it's very tender. And so, yeah, it reminded me of that very much. And even like the relationship throughout the whole movie in Rogue One, previously with Chirrut and Baze, right? Baze? Mm-hmm. Baze. It's like, it's a very close relationship. Like, you can tell they're always kind of disagreeing with each other with like a certain, like, not with antagonism, but with like total tender care, even when they kind of hate each other. And I was like, whoa, I don't know if it was the intention of anyone, of the filmmakers of any kind, but certainly whether it was their intention or not, like, I think you can easily read it that way. And it just like, it added a new level to the movie where I thought, okay, this is pretty amazing that they decided to go for this.
Mm-hmm. And right, like you said, who knows if it was the creator's intention behind the movie, but in a post-structuralist, like postmodern sense, I mean, it's there and you can read it that way. There is no ultimate authority on what the appropriate reading of the movie is, but I sensed that, and I don't know if there is an answer to it, but I know that it is a discussion that was happening online. Like, I've seen articles like, are these the first LGBT characters in the Star Wars universe? Because that's obviously an area of representation that Star Wars hasn't touched on. And this movie, it should be said too, I really liked because the cast is so diverse, which, especially with a saga that's been accused of having some racist undertones in episodes 1 through 3. And even episode 7, the most recent one, the primary characters is a black man and a woman. And the fact that LGBT populations haven't been represented in this world that is so heavily participated in by so many fans, that's a big step. But at the same time, it's sort of like, it's like Schrodinger's queer character. Like, are they queer? There's no definitive answer that's given. Like, you can look at them one way, you can look at them the other way and make up your own conclusion, I guess. But
even the possibility of that interpretation you're suggesting is like a big step for the Star Wars universe.
Right.
It's like there's no moment in any past Star Wars where anyone could even possibly draw that.
I think there's a possibility, but this one just lends itself to being that interpreted that way, I think. And I'm gay, so I thought, so I would like to see something like that. But also, there's, unlike other Star Wars movies, is this the only Star Wars movie that doesn't have a romance in it? Because there's always
Yeah.
Well, I guess episode
This,
1.
I got a little sense of romance between Jin and Diego Luna's character by the end. Like, you know, I think they ended like on the beach together, watching the nuclear explosion about to kill them. It wasn't like overt. It wasn't the point of the story. It just kind of developed. But
Right.
But yeah, I mean the moment between I forget their names, Chirrut and Baz was
Chirrut Makto.
definitely equally tender than as Diego Luna and Jin at the end.
You're right. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And it is a Disney movie. So, you know, Disney is extremely, most of its movies, other than Pixar, which are not really heteronormative, at the center of so many Disney movies is a heterosexual relationship. So the fact that this one at least didn't have an overt one between Jin and Cassian makes it, I think, more available for a queer reading of the text or of the movie. And yeah, I think, well, I mean, even after episode 7, people were sort of hoping that Finn and Poe were in a gay relationship. Isn't Finn John Boyega?
It's the guy that looks just like John Boyega. Yeah.
Right. They couldn't get John Boyega. They had to get a lookalike.
He's an eternal form that has there's many different representations on Earth.
But people were hoping that there was a relationship between him and Oscar Isaac's character. Is that Poe?
That is Poe.
Yeah, that's Poe. That's one hell of a pilot.
That's one of the reasons I don't really like John Boyega is because he said in an interview, "No, they're not gay." It's like,
screw
okay.
you, John. You didn't write the freaking story.
Right, what gives you the authority?
You're not the emperor.
Did you invent this character? Are you the author? And also,
John Boyega is Star Wars.
And so what if queer people or whoever want to interpret it that way? I think they're owed that
Authoritarian
representation.
John says
Exactly.
no.
But then even weirder, I guess because it just became such a meme, like Finn and Poe, like fan art, you know, like yaoi, like fan art of the two, like, you know, embracing and kissing. There was so much of that online. He was being asked those questions in interviews, and finally he succumbed, I guess, and basically confirmed that they could be gay in the most ridiculous way.
How?
He posted a video on Snapchat or Instagram or maybe both, I don't remember, of him and Oscar Isaac, like in a position. The camera was zoomed in and they were in a position and they were like grunting as to suggest they were having sex.
Really?
And then it zooms out and they're working out in a workout room. It's like, okay, thanks.
Seems like he's kind of just like making fun of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, right. It's
Like, oh, let's fuck with all these people.
Yeah, it's the
I
shallow
am Star
Hal.
Wars.
It's the shallow Hal method of affirming a vulnerable population. Like, let's affirm fat people by having a warm and fuzzy ending about the experience of being obese by making about 10 million fat jokes on the way.
Right. I don't want to read too much into this, but that video sounds like the behavior of a Sith.
Wow.
Jar Jar and Boyega.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
Two
good
Sith.
chance Boyega's got a little Sith running through the veins.
I agree.
Only a Sith would do something so overtly evil.
Only the Sith does something so absolutely dumb.
Yeah.
What I don't that doesn't. It's funny that doesn't really even like. I thought you were gonna say, you told me this story before, but I forgot. Like, I thought you were gonna say he then like backtracked. Boyega, we're talking about Sith Boyega here. I really hope that his name becomes Darth Boyega. Finn is now Darth Boyega, right? Because Star Wars
becomes a
nerds.
Sith, they just give him his actual last name.
It's a
Darth Earl Jones.
Yeah. If you become
Darth
Sith-
Adam Driver.
Oh my gosh, that would be really cool.
Boyega.
But that doesn't really even seem like was it just that he and Oscar Isaacs are sort of like working out together as they're filming, or like was he actually suggesting like, well, we're kind of pretending to be these two characters, and then it's also like you said, it seems very much like a joke. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I know you guys are thinking about we're gay, so you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do something that like people who are maybe even slightly homophobic would do as a joke, to
Right.
affirm our own non-gayness or something.
We're going to show that we're just being bros.
Right, let's confirm our queerness by doing what gay people do, which is have grunting sex. Like, nice representation.
Yeah, thanks for that compassionate look, John. And one of my favorite parts about this is that we're putting all the blame on John Boyega and none of it on Oscar Isaac. Or to think that it's all John Boyega's fault.
Well, I like Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, Oscar Isaac's great.
Yeah.
He was a great Joseph in the Nativity story.
That's right, he was.
Really?
He grabbed that snake out of the river because the snake is the devil.
And the dove's the Holy Spirit.
Oh, yeah. I came into this conversation planning to fully defend Boyega, but now I hate him.
Please do. Well, here's the thing.
I can
I've
play
never
that role for fun.
I don't know if you want to even include that whole discussion. Because I read about that video. I have not seen it.
We can verify or try to find it first just to make sure.
Because you might want to have him on the podcast eventually.
I actually just tweeted at him.
Oh!
Said, John Boyega, we're talking about you right now. And they said hashtag Finn and Poe forever.
That's awesome. Yeah, in case we include any of this, I'd like to encourage our listener to check out our social media. Sometimes we keep the jokes flowing from the podcast into the social media world.
Yeah.
With our hashtag meta jokes.
There's no barriers.
Yeah, usually every time we post, we lose about one follower.
Somehow, it's amazing.
Really?
When we don't post, like, random people will start following us, then we do post. And I guess they realize, I have no time for these meta jokes.
Like, oh, I'm still following this.
Yeah, who are these people?
I have more important things to see, like John Boyega's new video.
New video. He just dropped a new Instagram video. It's hilarious.
Boyega's live.
That's a future talk show. Boyoga.
Darth Boyoga.
Boyorgensen.
Boyorgensen.
John Boyega is like, he looks so much like Tracy Morgan.
He does.
He does.
You're right. It looks like he has a lot of food in his mouth.
Maybe that's why he's always struggling to breathe.
I guess he is are those stormtrooper outfits like air conditioned?
Yeah. He's always sweating and breathing heavily.
Boyega doesn't sweat, he pants.
Yeah.
But Sean, you asked about like I forget what you said, like do you think that's a positive that Chirrut and Baze might be gay? And I think one of the things I feel like about it be like this, I've heard this term like Schrodinger's queer character, which is, the movie is owned by Disney, and the fact that Disney or any of huge blockbuster movies, when they're deciding like basically what in the script can stay for the purposes of earning money, a queer character can be really disadvantageous to their profits in a foreign market, because in China they're not very receptive to American movies with queer characters.
Okay.
Like we saw with Beauty and the Beast, that the newest like live action Emma Watson realness. When I guess I haven't seen it, but LeFou, I think, is gay in that movie and openly gay. And in Russia, you have to be 18 or older to see the movie because of their anti-LGBT propaganda laws. China, a lot of theaters would not release the movie. So that hurts the bottom line. So yes, it's a good thing that these characters are maybe suggested to possibly be queer, which also opens our minds to not view things in such a heteronormative way, that not everyone by default is straight and the exception is gay. But it's also sad because Disney probably wouldn't do something like that, like put a gay character in Star Wars.
Especially when both of them are Chinese.
Exactly. Oh, right.
Yeah, the Chinese character's gay. Yeah, and Hollywood gets so much money from foreign markets, especially China, because action movies are huge in China.
Like John Wick.
Oh, really?
Didn't that movie like flopped here, but didn't it do really well in China?
I'm not sure.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I would assume Chinese people like Keanu.
I would assume so too, because maybe it's just his matrixness or his ability to do kung fu, but he sort of he has a certain Chineseness to him.
Yeah.
So I could see them really liking Keanu.
Yeah, he's half Hawaiian, isn't he?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
All this really brings, the kind of the thought around to me again to bring him up as our good personal friend Roland Emmerich for making Dr. Brackish Okun openly gay. Like knowing, as Deobia mentioned, Independence Day was the first film to have the lead character be African American with Will Smith, and then Independence Day Resurgence. I mean, it's subtle, but not every gay person is like, walking around screaming "I'm gay," like Michael Bay would assume. Like if there's ever been a gay character in a Michael Bay movie, it's a total joke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sort of like that.
Is there an example?
Well, no, but there's a Jerry Bruckheimer example that I know of, and that's from Con Air, the inmate
Right.
who is just like a stereotype of like a transvestite gay joke. And Jerry Bruckheimer probably thought it was really, really funny, just like all 15-year-old boys do.
Right.
Oh, and Roland Emmerich is gay, right?
Roland Emmerich is
is,
gay.
yeah.
Recently engaged.
Yeah. Congrats again, Roland.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts of your podcast is that you essentially do live action hashtags in the middle of an hour and a half podcast, as though you're really calling out to Roland. Like he can hear.
And hashtags
listening.
don't even need to be typed anymore. As long as they're spoken, they will connect to.
At minute 49. But who made The Rock?
Michael Bay.
Bay.
Okay, well, there is that cartoonish like hairstylist.
Oh, yes,
who
exactly.
is like a gay stereotype who's basically cutting who's he?
Sean Connery's
Sean
hair.
Connery's, and yeah, he's extremely flamboyant.
He is so flamboyant, and there's this like totally dumb comedic scene when Sean Connery is like escaping from jail, and he runs to this elevator, and these hairstylist is like cowering down and hiding.
Right.
And he's like, I don't care what you did. I don't care why you're leaving. All I care about is, do you like your hair? It's like, wow, Michael Bay. That way to just
Jump the shark.
You're right, because and again, like maybe there could be a character like that who's done like in a fun way or a fun loving way, but I have no doubt that Michael Bay actually thinks every gay person is just like that.
Well, that's why I'm excited for your Armageddon. Did you say you're going to do an Armageddon episode?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
the next one we're going to do.
Oh, fun. Because there's an inherent conservatism to Michael Bay.
Yeah.
Yes.
He is so he just seems so socially conservative, so gendered.
Yeah.
And like, did anyone see that movie with the guy from The Office about Benghazi?
Oh. No, I didn't. 13
that was-
hours or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Michael Bay, right?
Yeah,
It
it
was.
was.
Oh, God.
And that came out during the election stuff, and Hillary Clinton was highly criticized for the Benghazi stuff.
Right.
So almost like it could have been, like we've established, his movies are propaganda.
Yeah.
It's not like they share similarities with propaganda. They are propaganda.
Yeah.
So, I mean, would you guys go so far as to call Rogue One a progressive film?
In one respect, I would say it progresses. So I'm not like socially progressive. I'm not thinking about the word progressive in that way right now, but I would say it progresses way differently from the standard form of an action movie in that, like we said, the main characters die. And in most Hollywood movies, when a main character dies, it's to create a sense of emotion that the whole rest of the movie has failed to do because it's so poorly made. Or a main character will die only for you to find out that they didn't die. Like, I have not seen Guardians of the Galaxy, but Groot, Vin Diesel, I am Groot. Groot dies. But apparently Groot's species can just like rebirth like a tree, because Groot is a tree. I can't believe the words that I'm even talking about. But so it's like, what's the point of having a character die if they can just come back and be the same character? Like,
Right.
it's the good guys
Just
never
playing
die.
with people's emotions.
Yeah.
You could say the same thing about Game of Thrones.
Oh.
But I don't want to spoil anything for Sean because I know he's dying to watch that series.
Yep. It's one of these days.
I would say it's progressive because of its cast. I do think it's like, I think it's good that the last two Star Wars movies have had a female lead. I wish they had done some things differently. I do like the way Rogue One, like the Jin's like fierceness and battle readiness is just so matter of fact. There's not John Boyega in the sidelines being like, what? Like,
Oh, yeah.
You can hold a gun, you know?
There was a moment though when Jin like beat up a bunch of stormtroopers and Diego Luna kind of looked with surprise,
Right.
like, "Oh
Like,
my gosh, you just
I
did
don't
that?
need-
You're
I
a
don't need
woman."
Yeah, I don't even
You
need
beat
to
them
step
up.
in for you. You're right. That is totally like eating out of Disney's hand. Like, but yeah, so I do. I mean, it is a super diverse cast. There's Riz Ahmed, who is Middle Eastern. Forrest Whitaker,
yeah.
female lead.
Diego Luna,
the
Chinese people.
Chinese
CGI
people.
dead guy.
CGI. We haven't even
dead.
talked about
Oh, yeah.
Grand Moff Tarkin.
Tarkin.
Is that his name?
Tarkin, is that his name?
Yeah, Tarkin.
I've had enough of the CGI faces. I liked it. I thought it was really good. But I'm just actually amazed that they can't yet do that in a way that's totally indistinguishable.
Right. It was
Like
so clear to me the second time watching that this is a CGI face.
Yeah.
It really bugged isn't even the right word. It was just unsettling.
Yes.
It is.
And I know a lot of
unsettling.
people said that about the movie. There's something kind of disturbing about it.
I didn't feel that way about the
Leia?
Moff.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way about that's a Grand Moff Tarkin, who that actor must have died back in
Like in 80s.
right in the 80s or 90s, and I thought for the most part it looked good, and they definitely kept his face in the shadows a lot, but you're right, it was unsettling, but not as much as Princess Leia's.
Really?
Was that her? Was that fully CGI or was that
No, I mean,
Carrie
there was
Fisher with prosthetics or something?
there was an actor played her, and then they CGI'd. They did the facial thing.
Yeah.
So a person did that whole scene, and then they CGI'd Carrie Fisher's face.
Okay. That looked like they took Carrie Fisher and gave her millions of dollars of plastic surgery to look 30 years younger.
Yeah.
Really? She looked like Amanda Lepore, like
Who's
the
Amanda
woman who's addicted to plastic surgery. It's like,
It looks like a kind of an alien.
yeah.
Not to disparage anyone's looks, but that's I guess
Maybe with CGI face just inevitably looks a little alien.
Well, it's odd because that's funny. I actually had a kind of an opposite reaction. I was amazed at how good Leia's looked, but it could be that she's only on screen for about 5 seconds.
Yeah, no one else is next to her to juxtapose against a
Right.
real
Yeah.
human face.
So
It's
I mean,
also bright.
what's
It's a
that?
really bright scene.
Yeah, so maybe some of my vision was taken up by the bright background. Whereas Grand Moff, is that what he's called?
Yeah, is that his title?
I
Is
guess.
Moff
I guess.
rank?
Yeah. His name was
You know,
Tarkin.
Is there a lower Moff?
Tarkin, he was making angry faces a lot, and when you make angry faces, a lot happens to wrinkles in your eyes and that sort of thing. Whereas Leia was just kind of speaking a simple little sentence or so. So it was okay, you can just sort of do a kind of a flat emotion. Yeah. How did we start talking about this?
I don't know.
Yeah, but I like that question of how if it's progressive, because it doesn't just have to be
Yes.
socially progressive. I liked the differences that it had with the rest of the Star Wars saga, which I think it had license to because it is sort of this spin-off movie. It's not in the canon, and I think that Star Wars is such an intense fandom. There's so much fan fiction that's written, largely by women in the Star Wars fandom, that it makes, there's been fan movies and fan fiction written about the original trilogy, episodes 4 through 6, forever, even before Phantom Menace, and that's why I think the Star Wars fandom responded so negatively to George Lucas's Phantom Menace because it just seems so tone deaf to the like what was going on in the Star Wars world. And I think this movie almost has that feeling of being fan fiction. I mean, it was essentially, the idea was first pitched by the visual effects supervisor for episodes 1 through 3.
Really?
And he pitched the story, and then it was rejected, and then he pitched it to Disney when Disney purchased the rights for the franchise, which is neat, I think, because it's coming from a fan and not from the George Lucas orbit, and it just seemed to have elements that seemed more like fan fiction. I mean, the differences like being, you know, there's no crawl, there's no text crawl in the beginning. I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, but and like we said, the fact that everybody dies, it's not optimistic. It's also, even though Star Wars is a world that takes place surrounding war, this movie was like a war movie. Like it felt like a war movie.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I totally agree with, I mean, just to go to the fact that everyone died kind of thing, because again, something we talk about with action movies is how they want you to like believe like, oh, we're on the brink of like bad things happening, but they never really show it happening. Like Captain America's Civil War, incredibly dumb. And, but like this one, the main characters die, and like you reach a point where you realize they're going to die. And it's like, oh my gosh, like they are about to die right here. And yet it still has this hope, which like leading into episode 4 makes the title for episode 4 so much more relevant, that it's called A New Hope. In my mind, that it's like, oh my gosh, like you actually see, like you see Rogue One connect to episode 4, then I think some of the other Star Wars movies that move in sequence connect to one another, which made it, I think, like such a wonderful accomplishment, and made the end of Rogue One truly exciting in my mind, like actually heart racing and scary as well. Like when we really meet Darth Vader, after he's made his pun. And Sean, you appreciated his pun.
You're right. That was like a debut for Darth Vader, essentially, in the whole story, and it was scary.
Yeah.
That was just
it's
trapped
a
in
frightening
that
scene.
hallway.
It is. That, like, I was so amazed that scene was good, because in so many ways it could have been bad.
Yeah.
And by that point I realized I liked the movie, but stuff like that is often poorly done. And it was like, I am scared of Darth Vader right here. This is an actually intense scene, and I think I know how this movie's going to end, but I'm actually not sure.
Yeah. But like, I agree. That was my emotional response. And then when Old Reason kicks in, I'm like,
Who?
I said Old Reason.
Oh,
You might
that
candy
candy,
ego.
that's what I was thinking of.
What'd you think I said?
that candy, that chocolate over raisin.
RIESEN.
So,
You had a lot of them or something, and then
I had a
they
lot of
kicked
them,
in.
and I became grumpy. Darth Vader is walking towards these people. You know, he's got his lightsaber out. He's easily deflecting every blast. He's picking like 3 of them up at a time and launching them against a wall. But he can't like use the Force
the
to
last
grab
guy?
this like 1 ounce
Oh.
like thumb drive.
True.
Like, why didn't he just freeze the guy that had it and like bring him over to him? They're like, one guy's getting away every time. He's like, the door's closing. Take it.
It was more like a
Right.
floppy disk.
It was like a floppy disk. You're right. There certainly is,
true.
there's that kind of forced element too, where he's like, take it, and like all these people are like running by and they don't hear him.
Yeah, just to get
You're
through,
like, just turn around and take it.
But I didn't think it was gonna. I thought he was gonna get it, even though
Yeah.
you know he's not.
He's able to just destroy all of these people.
Right.
Oh man, and I thought it was so scary. Like they're like, you know, their ship's been hit or whatever, and they realize a ship has docked onto them. Then all of a sudden, Darth Vader lights up with his lightsaber, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh my god,
Yeah, it's freaky.
that is a
The
good
red
character.
glow.
Darth Vader truly is wonderful. I want to say, at one point, maybe the American Film Institute voted like, you know, best 100
villains.
criminals in film, and I think he was one.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Tough to beat.
He and Hopkins, Silence of the
Oh,
Lambs.
yeah.
Hopkins. Yeah.
Hannibal Lecter was up there.
Yeah.
Isn't that like the shortest role in terms of minutes within a movie that has won Best Actor?
Yeah, Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was in the movie for like 11
19,
minutes.
yeah.
Or some It was an odd number. I know that. It was less than 20.
Yeah, I feel like this movie, I forget what I was going to say. There's a comment you made earlier, Sean. There's a meta moment, I think, in this film that acknowledges its own otherness from the canon, that like, acknowledges its extra canonical status as like not an episode within the saga, is when, and this almost sort of stabs at the heart of like the people who said this movie doesn't need to exist. It's when, Riz Ahmed, what is his name?
He's the rebel pilot.
Bodhi Rook.
Bodhi Rook.
Bodhi Rook. They commandeer this ship, and they're about to fly to the planet that has the last battle, and the flight deck is like, what's your call name? And he has to make one up, and he goes, Rogue One. And the like doofus flight deck guy is like, Rogue One? There is no Rogue One. It's like, that's the fandom crying out, there is no. It's like, well, there is now, bitches.
I like that. Rogue One, that isn't a movie.
Right. George Lucas didn't sign off.
That shouldn't exist.
Right. And then the movie ends.
Yeah. Da, 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 da.
I guess a final comment I have is I would still argue it shouldn't exist. But that's because of a plot gripe that I just can't quite buy.
I'm really excited.
That's that. All right, we get it set up at the beginning that the bad guy from Casino Royale, Mads Mikkelsen or whatever, that he gets taken by the Empire because apparently he's the only guy that can build the Death Star.
Right.
No one else in the entire galaxy that can do it, or at least he'd do it the best, even though they know that he doesn't want to. Yeah. And this guy apparently goes away and builds this thing, and then like right when it's able to destroy full planets, he's like, all right, now we really got to let them know that you got to destroy this thing. Like, this dude's been building this for like 13 years. Why didn't he build it for like 8 years and like build it up a lot and then be like, okay, this thing can't destroy anything yet. If you blow it up now, they're not going to know I have anything to do with it, and then we'll have to start over and just keep doing that until the Empire dissolved or something. Why did he wait until it could destroy a full planet to finally be like, oh shit, you guys got to destroy this thing? Like, that dude is directly responsible for the loss of multiple cities and an entire planet.
And the dream.
Yeah, and the dream.
And the dream.
You're right.
And ironically, it's his weapon that kills his own daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. And this whole, like, you're the only one who can do it. So he decided, okay, since I'm the only one who can do it, I will, but I'll make it, I'll have
like a flaw.
Build something, and
they did
a fail-safe.
Yeah, they kind of like addressed it at like one line when it was like, well, he knew that if he didn't do it, someone else would. Or something, and so that's why he decided to like make the weakness in it, because he could at least do that. But he still didn't have to wait until it had the power to destroy a planet. Right.
And also, isn't that argument the same argument that was used by like people who were like commissioned into the SS? Like, well, they're just going to ask someone else to do it.
I might as well do it.
Like, it doesn't make your decision right.
The movie makes him like this heroic figure. It's like, no, this dude built the Death Star. He's bad.
If you really are the one person who can build the Death Star, I think you need to die.
Yeah.
You should not exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also was a little confused. Like, they just killed your wife, and now your daughter's hiding? Like, maybe... Or, well, I guess you sent your daughter to go hide with Saw Gerrera, so maybe, he'll keep her safe. But,
or
like, if I were, like,
her.
coerced into doing this, I might be like, okay, well, I hid my daughter near my cabin. Like, can I take her with me, at least, so I'm not separated from her forever? I don't know. I would also think that as he's building it, they're, like, training other people to know how it works. Like, so he's the only person who knows how this ship that's the size of like a planet like works, so that like when he dies they won't be able to rebuild it or something. Is that the idea? Because they do later rebuild it, right?
For Return of the Jedi,
and
then for The Force Awakens.
Exactly.
And I guess some people said like a similar. I guess the movie people have said was the Rogue One was born out of the plot hole, which I don't really see as a huge plot hole, which is like, why does this enormous Death Star have this weakness that's like akin to like something in a pinball machine? It's like, you just got to get your blaster to go right through that one little hole and then the whole thing blows up. It's like, I guess that is a plot hole, but not really. It's just like, you know, the whole Star Wars.
But then if this guy really wants to like destroy it, why doesn't he take that defecting pilot and be like, all right, dude, here's where the hole is. Just like go fly outside and shoot it right now. And this whole thing will explode.
Can we get a suicide bomber up in here, please?
It's like, you're going to die. You're going to see Saw Gerrera. So like, just make it easier. We don't have to have this convoluted plot of finding these plans. Just blow it up now.
Right. You're right. And actually, in the process of seeing Saw Gerrera, the whole message was almost lost because like Saw Gerrera didn't like this guy, right? And they almost didn't get a chance to transmit it. It was only because of the Chinese man, right?
Was it? Oh, yeah.
Chiritway?
Yeah, because
Churro?
he was one with the Force and he walked into that blast field and flipped the switch. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about like, right? Because Saw Gerrera had captured the rebel pilot.
Yeah, what was he going to do with it?
And I think Saw Gerrera like was just going to kill this guy, therefore making the message that he alone had totally useless.
It was only because Jin showed up that he was like, of all days to show up today.
Yeah, it was just a big coincidence.
Yeah.
Coinky-dink.
That's how they were able to put the dream onto that floppy disk.
Yes.
And save it.
Yeah.
Right, as like the crumbling rocks were just like blowing up.
I did like the coincidence quality of this movie, like the fact that those converged, because I think that by having the Chinese man who loved the Force, it was making a statement that the Force was actually bringing all this to be, which I guess would be another deterministic type of outlook, but
right.
But like the Force is unfolding these events back toward balance.
They had to happen that way.
Yeah. So none of these characters are free agents.
Right. That's always a good question with any kind of piece of speculative fiction that's like sci-fi or fantasy, is like, is this a deterministic universe or is this one where free will is like,
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't know. But one sort of loose end that I didn't expect was the kyber crystal that she wears around her neck. Is that going to reappear as a plot device in a later movie? Didn't you expect she keeps looking at this? Or wait, actually, I just jumped in an assumption. Is that a kyber crystal? Do you remember Jin is wearing that little crystal?
Right.
Do they confirm that that's a kyber crystal?
I think so, because that's how the blind Chinese guy like first addresses her. It's like something about her necklace.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, because he can smell them.
Because when you go blind, your other senses actually get better.
Yeah, you can smell rocks.
Just like Daredevil with Ben Affleck.
Another great director. I didn't really even mean anything by that. I like the movie
neutral.
Argo, but God, Ben Affleck is so infantilized by Hollywood. Like,
You're right.
Give Ben an Oscar. He deserves it. He's worked so hard. J-Lo did him dirty.
I really hope that someone wanted him to win the Oscar because of that.
Yeah. I actually don't even know how they broke up. What's happened with that?
So there are going to be more, right? There are going to be more
Yeah.
sort of movies that are not in the chronological canon, but that are sort of, what would you call them?
It's called the Anthology Series.
So sort of like the Cimmerillion.
Yes, expanding the lore.
Yeah.
Which it's not like the Cimmerillion in the way that, which is one of the criticisms I have of the whole Star Wars franchise, is that it just seems like such weak world building. You know, the Cimmerillion is like basically the handbook for the whole Lord of the Rings world and explains a lot of the mythology, but I just feel like there's never anything too deep below the surface of anything in Star Wars. Like I've never had a really interesting theme like leap out at me like, oh.
Yeah, well, did you ever hear the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Some might consider unnatural.
He was so powerful, he could raise people from the dead.
That scene is
Ironic.
so awesome.
Is this from Force Awakens?
This is from Revenge of the Sith, and this.
Oh.
I hope that 2 of my students are listening right now. Shout out names Jack Murphy and James Murray, who sit right by each other. And
Oh my god, they almost have the exact same name.
pretty much once a
Wow.
class, they're sophomores, and they'll find a way to be like, "Have you ever heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?"
Well, that's a meme. Why is that a meme right now?
Is it
have
a
you? Yeah, have you? So, are either of you on Reddit?
No,
No.
we
So-
need to be.
You need to be our Reddit guy. Connect
yeah.
General
Oh.
Snobbery to Reddit.
I'll be your Reddit liaison. Let me tell you what this community of tens of millions of people are in a single voice saying.
Just get all of them to listen to this podcast.
Hey
That's
guys.
your goal.
Well, there was this. So Reddit has these, little communities, and one of them was this. On April Fool's Day, they always do this project that's supposed to be collaborative of as many users as they want to collaborate, and it's called Place. So they launched this platform on Reddit on April Fool's Day this year called Place, and essentially every user could change. It was like this image of like 10 million by 10 million pixels, and each user could change the color of 1 pixel every 5 minutes. So the point is to transform within 24 hours this like 10 million by 10 million pixel field into whatever image. So people started like adding things, and no one person could create an image because you'd only limited 1 pixel per 5 minutes.
Wow.
But in the center, so there's all these really interesting murals that are on it. Like in the center is an American flag, and there's all these different memes all over the place. And one of the biggest things is in calligraphy font, the Darth Plagueis
Are you serious?
speech. Yeah. And I was like,
Wow.
why is that there?
Wow.
But I do remember that speech really well. Like, there's some kind of meme power going on behind that.
God, that's the Force. That's amazing.
That is incredible. It is the Force. George
I don't
Lucas.
remember that from Revenge of the Sith, and I've seen those like episodes 2 and 3 a lot.
It's when Emperor or Chancellor Palpatine or whatever he is at that time sits down with Anakin in one of those very obvious, like, I'm converting you to the dark side types
Yeah.
of scenes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And he tells him the story of a Jedi
I do remember.
who I think trained, I don't think trained him, but trained some powerful Sith. And he apparently could bring people back from the dead, but couldn't save himself from dying. And he was like trying to get this idea in Anakin's head that he could have the power to stop death, because I think he was afraid.
His mom.
Oh yeah, he was
Padme.
playing on the mom thing, and maybe
Yeah.
was afraid Padme was gonna die or something. I
Oh,
don't
right. He was
know.
having dreams that Padme was going to die
That's
in
it.
childbirth.
Yeah.
But that's only because he was breaking my heart.
Yeah, and it's because Obi-Wan Kenobi had the high ground.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Chopped all his limbs off. Do you remember the setting of that Chancellor Palpatine and Anakin conversation?
Was it like in one of those rooms where it's just like
big
really
windows.
kind of like, it reminds you of like those scenes in Gladiator with like Emperor Commodus and his sister, like dark and
Oh
purpley.
no! It was one of many CGI circuses in the episodes 1 through 3. They were in some kind of. It literally looked like a Star Wars version of Cirque du Soleil. It was some kind of performance of all these like lights and ribbons, and it was like an opera that was
Wow,
clearly alien. It was so stupid.
I didn't know that at
What are
all.
they watching? This isn't music. It was very weird.
How the fuck can like a bunch of Reddit users spell that out? That's amazing.
You had to rely on other people to interpret what the project is that's happening.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
I wonder what conflicts happened too. Like if somebody tried to like alter or X out something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Darth Plagueis the Wise has come back.
it would definitely like deflate the meme balloon that Darth Murphy and Darth
Murray.
Murray are like, that they're like trying to, or that they're tapping into, but I want you to ask them, like, why do you guys keep saying that?
Yeah. Collective unconscious or something.
Right. Explain the joke to me.
Yeah, I will.
I would love it if in some later anthology film Darth Plagueis does come back and somehow they reference that like this inscription just showed up. Like this inscription somehow was formed and like in reference to the Reddit thread.
Oh,
It's like the
This
same
inscription. Yeah. So like they basically get some of the plot of the movie about Darth Plagueis from Reddit and Reddit followers, that it was this like movement of this force that made him materialize or something.
Right. I wonder, like, in thousands of years, what fictional characters are perceived to have been historical characters. Like, you know, in like Christianity, there was Saint Christopher, you know, but like, I guess he was like a medieval legend. So I guess the Vatican in the 60s or something de-canonized him, said like, okay, he's not a saint anymore because he actually never really existed.
It wasn't even a real human being.
Right. He's a giant. Giants aren't real. But I wonder if in the future they're like, who are these Darth people?
Yeah.
Was
Darth Vader, was he the one was he that dictator a long time ago? The emperor in Europe? Like, no, that was Julius Caesar, or maybe you're thinking about Adolf Hitler, but it wasn't Darth Vader. He was from a book, but it was like a movie.
A book.
Which don't exist anymore because we watch everything in our brains.
Yeah, he was from a DVD.
You're right. I mean, like Greek mythology, we talk about like the Greek gods as if they were real, even though when we talk about them, we know they weren't. You know, like, well, then Dionysus killed Athena's blah, 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 or, you know, however it goes.
Right. And people believed they were real. That's something I've never understood. Is like, and that's like the arrogance that I had as a religious high schooler of like, just like, they believed that Zeus was real. It's like, well, you believe in this. That's equally unnatural.
I bet John Boyega believes that they're all real.
I don't even believe he's real. John Boyega just better prove himself. He better prove to me that he's real.
We're going to learn that John Boyega has an elaborate hologram.
Right.
Yeah, it's like he's just that like CGI face from Grand Moff.
Yeah, he's sitting in a file somewhere, like next to Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, and some Hollywood producers like in the dark, like on his computer screen, like, now to bring Boyega.
What shall Darth Boyega's next move be?
Breathing, definitely.
Ooh, that's a good little allusion to maybe a later Moff Darth Boyega when he has to breathe.
Right.
Yeah, good premonition.
He's going to be Ventilator 2.
His breath will be a lot more rapid than Darth Vader, so...
No one can hear anything in the room.
Yeah, he'll have like a translator. That'd kind of be fun. He can't speak.
But his voice won't be James Earl Jones. It'll just be like a distorted Boyega. That's one hell of a pilot.
You know, like kind of thinking about these extreme circumstances is making me remember a joke I was going to make earlier about queer characters in Star Wars, and I was going to say that perhaps Darth Maul was gay. And if no one's ever said that, I'd like to just make that up right now. And the only justification would be that his lightsaber is not a single lightsaber, which represents one penis, but it is a double lightsaber, which represents two penises.
Yeah.
True. The only dual lightsaber.
He also, it's like Darth Maul can definitely dance.
Yeah.
I don't think Darth Vader can, but Darth Maul can.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, and that doesn't even have to do with Darth Vader's lack of legs. It's just his general persona.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys? I remember. So we had a teacher. I guess he was a teacher. He was more of like a cartoon character.
Whoever he is, I hope he's listening.
Right. Shout out to Coach Drew Shin.
Oh man, that guy.
But he was explaining. He was subbing a class that I was in, and he was explaining how Star Wars is all a Christian allegory. You know how like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, like that whole world, there's allegorical ties to like the Gospels, and that's sort of whatever. But like, I remember him explaining the Force is like, that's my problem with allegories is like in interpretations of C.S. Lewis, like it's like, okay, the lion equals Jesus, like the Snow Queen equals Satan. It's like, is it that simple? This like equation you're drawing? Like that almost sounds like C.S. Lewis had zero creativity.
Yeah, you just changed the names.
Right. But he was basically saying that the Force equals the Holy Spirit. The Jedi equal priests. And I didn't really know Star Wars very well in high school. I didn't watch them until college. And that has like affected how I understand Star Wars so much. That's sort of the lens that I look through it. And I don't think that that's accurate or even the intention of George Lucas until like I saw, I don't remember reading or watching something about like more comparisons between the Force and the Tao from Taoism.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you guys understand Star Wars through like a Christian lens, or is that?
I think that it's definitely possible. I do want to just say we have to bear in mind that the same man who informed you of this is also the man who told stories of slamming his own dick in lockers.
That equals the wounds of Christ.
That's his version of being an ascetic high school coach.
Right. He slammed my dick in a locker once. I'm sorry.
That's why he got fired, right?
Yeah, right. That's right.
Shane, you can't slam students' dicks in lockers.
Just to clarify for the NSA that's listening, he did not do that. He did not molest me and hurt me.
I think you can. Part of the fun of Star Wars is the mythology can lend itself to the interpretation, but to say that is exactly it is fucking dumb. The point of an allegory is that it can lend itself to multiple interpretations.
Right. Which is why I think there's room for like a queer reading of it. Like, is the creator of it queer? Did they intend queer things? No, but I'm queer and bitch, you're not going to stop me.
That was so queer.
that was so progressive.
We're officially a progressive podcast now.
Yeah, we are.
Really?
We are.
We did it. We just did it.
Yeah. You're
Thanks,
going to get
Adam.
a letter from the ACLU.
Yeah, thank you. Here's money.
For defending the First Amendment.
Yeah, exactly. I think like, to do that allegory where it's this equals this is always so kind of simplistic and one-minded. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, there are a lot of action movies today that are so bad they're not even able to do that. It's not like Captain America Civil War equals like divisions within American culture. It's like so much more diluted. But yeah, it seems like a bit of a cop-out or a cheap, too easy of a way to understand it. And also, I'd like to make a little epistemological, reference here, kind of the way we know things or how we know things, and just say how if you're someone who has influence over someone's thoughts, like be gentle with them, because you can clearly incept things into people's minds, a la the movie Inception. And there have been plenty of times I've heard like an interpretation of something, and it has taken me years to move away from that.
Yeah.
So I totally get what you're saying, where it's like, now I can't not see the Jedi like this or the Force like this.
So
and
fuck Boyega for telling us that Finn and Poe don't have a relationship.
Leave that to us, Boyega.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, I also really resent the idea of a singular authority of the meaning of a text anyways.
Yeah, especially if he's a fucking actor in it.
Exactly. Like, thanks for telling me how to view you.
Yeah, the story that you did not write.
Right.
Yes. Your job is to take all of this and show it to me in a realistic way, not to explain it to me. Yeah.
But yeah, and like Sean, you're an English teacher, and I think one of my first encounters with this, because I think at least I'm coming at this from sort of I cannot say this without feeling pretentious.
That's okay. We're this far in the podcast. No one's listening.
But the first time I was introduced to what I didn't know it at the time, but what I know now is like a post-structuralist, sort of postmodern
Derridian.
like, hermeneutic of a lens. What'd you say?
Derridian, perhaps?
Oh, right, exactly.
Derrida.
Was from an English teacher we had who was like clearly overqualified to teach high school. I think he had once been a university professor.
He moved on to, he got his PhD.
Okay. I think he was working on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, now I don't remember his name.
No, yeah.
What is his name? Chura.
Dr.
Oh,
Chura. All comes back to
guess
Chura.
University of Akron.
Maybe, yeah. I'm going to view Chura as Chura. But anyway, so Professor Chura, somebody, we were reading, what the hell is
Was it one of the old Greek
The
books?
Scarlet Letter. One of the old Greek books. And, the Scarlet Letter has so much symbolism, and it has that supernatural, supernatural motifs. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. But, it can be frustrating for a lot of high schoolers. And I remember a lot of people being really frustrated with, like, the level of analysis that he was asking of us. And, somebody kind of had this tantrum, like, what? How do we know that this was what the author intended? How do we know that this in this book means this? And I loved this teacher. He was so like calm and it's like he didn't let this idiot kid rile him up.
He did not talk about lockers and genitals.
Right. He didn't then slam his dick into anything. But his response was, well, it doesn't matter if the author intended it. What we do, and we don't know, but it's there. It's there if we see that it's there. And I think that a queer reading of Star Wars is
Schrodinger's
welcome.
Queer. Right?
Exactly, right. Because, any art, like you said, like the epistemology of this, like in a Derridian sense, like knowledge is really contingent on power relations. So should we like totally accept the power relation between the creator and us, or does John Boyega have some power over
John Boyega
this?
thinks he does.
Right. He seems to claim this authority over the meaning. It's like, well, the reader in a postmodern interpretation of anything is implicated in constructing the meaning of the thing.
Yeah, it's participatory act. So does that lead to like a relative understanding of the text?
I guess so. And I think that's why fan fiction is so fun, because, and why I would liken this movie almost to like a commercialized form of fan fiction, when there's this canon of anything, Harry Potter, Star Wars, and fans decide they're not done. They're not ready for the author to like say the author, like J.K. Rowling's not writing anything left of the story of Harry Potter. It seems she probably will, but
Yeah.
The fan base has decided, well, we're not done with that. And we want to know more about this relationship. And that's, I like and appreciate fan fiction writers like playing with the text, which is sort of postmodern, because
and Rogue One, it's like kind of just like fan fiction at large scale. I mean, if we go beyond George Lucas as like the original authority over it, like now he has nothing to do with it.
Which kind of goes back to that. Remember when George Lucas made that like infinitely idiotic decision to edit the original film?
Oh yes, we can't forget that.
And fans were upset, understandably, because he changed some very like deep the deep meaning of certain characters. Like one of the most controversial was Han Solo's introduction in A New Hope.
Yeah,
like he's sitting there. What exactly? Yeah. So do you know about this, Matt?
Yeah, but like refresh me.
It's like Greedo or something.
Right. He's sitting with Greedo, this funny looking alien.
And they're in like the bar, like the den, right?
Yeah, the tavern.
Yeah,
the tavern.
Yeah.
And I guess Greedo works for Jabba, and Han owes him money. So in the original version, Han Solo, like basically in the middle of his own sentence, shoots Greedo.
Yeah, from under the table, right?
Right. And you just see this blast. So you're watching Han Solo from Greedo's perspective, so it takes you by surprise. And then George Lucas, because he always said that the original Star Wars films were not complete. They weren't fully to his vision. Now CGI allows him to do that. Asshole. But he edits the scene he basically makes it so Greedo shot first, and then Han Solo shoots him, which really changes the fans' understanding of what a badass Han Solo was.
Yeah.
And then there's, the discussion of like, well, does this piece of art, does Star Wars belong to George Lucas or does it belong to the people? And the fans seem to think, no, how dare you change this? It doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to us.
Yeah.
And then others would say, well, it is his creation. He can do with it whatever.
Yeah, but it's like once it's released and once it becomes like a collective experience, is it still the property of the originator or whatnot?
Right.
It'd be like, I don't know.
I mean, almost like a novelist now just like changing a chapter in a book.
That's
or
exactly
something.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like Mark Twain at the end of his life. Like, yeah, I didn't really like how Huck Finn ended, so I'm just going to change this. You know what? It was never meant to be Huck Finn. It was always Tom Sawyer, so I'm just going to change it to Tom.
Or, Harper Lee just released that book.
Yeah, Go Set a Watchman.
Yeah, and people, Atticus, I haven't read it, but what I heard is that Atticus is basically racist in like later years, which people have a problem with.
Yeah. So fascinating discussion. I think we at General Snobbery would argue toward the preservation of the original, the non-tampering.
Yeah, let that be enough to form some sort of theory or some sort of criticism or way of understanding. And of course, in doing that, like, you can't just like make stuff up. Like, when we were in high school and this teacher introduced us to this idea of interpretation, I think we all wanted like the right answer.
Right.
And it's not so much about there being a right answer, but it's also not the opposite where you can just say whatever you want about anything.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have like a way of understanding, and like you have to prove it that like, well, this is significant because this, and this, and therefore because of these, you can plausibly say that this.
Yeah.
You
so
can't
it's not
just
absolute and it's not relative. It's
exactly. It's somewhere in between.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's that great flow of art.
Yeah, in between the dualism.
In between the dualism. It's maybe that line of the yin yang.
Yeah. So we will never go back and tamper with previous episodes. Everything that General Snobbery has released will remain in its original form, including the horrible audio from the first couple episodes.
Yeah, we'll never digitally remaster those, George Lucas. Why? Because we're not fuckers.
We care about our fans.
You should call him, whenever you tweeted him, Baby Boyega.
Babyface Boyega.
That'll really infantilize him. Which he'd hate.
Yeah,
he would. But he's only like 22, right?
Is he?
Really?
I don't know.
Oh.
I thought he was like 40.
He's an eternal Boyega.
An eternal Boyega.
Yeah. All right, so listener, we're going to keep tweeting and Instagram trolling Boyega. So you can follow us.
Not because we hate him.
Yeah, and not in a way of like, you suck, Boyega, but like,
no.
Just keep on commenting on his pictures like, wow, John Boyega, this guy looks just like you. That somehow the Instagram photos are not actually John Boyega.
Yeah.
I'm still not sure whether or not he exists or should exist.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Bring it full circle.
Bringing it back. Yeah.
Yeah, John Boyega probably hates Rogue One because he's not in it.
Right. There was no movie before episode 7. No, any movie. No movies out.
No movies ever. Yeah. History just began recently.
Right.
I just can't wait for Darth Boyega or Boyogo or whatever we said
What
earlier.
color will his lightsaber be?
Ooh. Well, he's gay, right? So a rainbow? It'll be
Boyega.
Boyega.
No, he has settled it. But he did. He suggested they might.
Yeah. Well, Boyega's
so it might
not,
be,
but Finn
might be a
is.
rainbow.
Yeah. Finn is gay. Boyega can't accept that.
If John
Yeah, you're
Boyega
right.
ends up playing a gay character, I'm going to be very mad. Unless he himself is gay, and I don't believe that he is. I don't want to see what John Boyega's interpretation of a gay person is.
Even if John Boyega comes out and says he's gay, I'm still not going to believe that he's gay. It'd be a calculated move based on some algorithm of the analysts who have created the hologram known as John Boyega.
But we know that since they're relying on getting revenue from Hollywood or from China, and from other parts of the world that they probably won't have an openly gay Boyega.
Mm-hmm.
But they might have a Darth Boyega. Oh,
We
man.
need a gay Sith.
Yeah.
See, that would probably get people mad.
Darth Gay is just what they should call him, just so that we know and there's no room for
Yeah,
interpretation.
that's a great idea.
I will
Darth LGBTQ+.
I will say, though, that my first impression of Darth Vader in Rogue One, when he first appears and he's walking toward the Admiral guy with the lisp, he's got a pretty effeminate walk in that scene.
Does he?
Yeah, if you look closely,
little
like
shimmy?
he, it looks like a drag queen dressed as Darth Vader.
Oh, he's
Wow.
just stomping the runway. It
Yeah.
is pretty much a runway
It
that
is,
he's walking
yeah,
to.
and it's like if you watch his legs, it's very feminine.
I wish he
Really?
started like crawling like a panther.
Well, he made the other guy crawl like a panther when he choked him.
Oh,
That's true.
This
A little
is
He was
bondage.
literally gagging.
wow. This has just got a lot deeper.
Yeah, some BDSM going on with Darth Vader.
You're right. Yeah, the Force, using the Force for BDSM.
Really, all along, it's been an allegory for BDSM. Screw the whole Christian interpretation. The Force is an allegory for being the aggressor.
50 Shades of the Force.
May the Force be with you.
Yeah, this would be one situation where I'd be fine with George Lucas going back and making like CGI Darth Vader crawling like a panther. Okay, you can go back and do that.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, but don't make that guy shoot first in the tavern.
Yeah, right. There's just not anything.
Unless he's gay.
Let's go.
That's why it was so strange when J.K. Rowling came out with
Yes.
Dumbledore is gay. And I didn't really know about. It's just weird that she is participating in fan fiction almost,
Yeah,
it seems.
yeah.
But I guess it's okay she has always said that those characters are so real to her, and I can understand that they're her creation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was weird it's not weird to me that she imagined Dumbledore to be gay. It's weird to me that she would have imagined Dumbledore to be gay and not to have communicated that in some way through the text.
Yeah, like ever.
That would have been really nice for gay children, for
Yeah.
everybody. Like
One of the
you
best
actually
characters
represented.
ever.
Right.
Yeah, and also in terms of the actor, I forget the actor who played Dumbledore like in the later films.
Yeah.
Oh, Michael
But
Gambon.
like, what's that?
Michael Gambon?
Yeah,
Oh,
Michael
yeah.
Gambon. Like, to what degree would she have had a responsibility to tell him? Because he's essentially making this character come to life for us to see. And yet I don't know if she ever did tell him or if it was later that she decided or she had it in her mind all along. But just kind of a question, maybe to what degree would she have been responsible to tell him that so that he is at least more aware of the complexities of the character?
Right. Like in the film Doubt, Michael Patrick Shanley, the screenwriter, the movie's about this priest, whether or not he did or did not molest this altar boy. And Michael Patrick Shanley knows the answer to it, and he told Philip Seymour Hoffman the answer. Oh, I don't know if there actually is an answer, but he told Philip Seymour Hoffman whether or not the priest molested the altar boy so that he could act in that way.
Because Philip Seymour Hoffman right, I need to know.
Right, that's right.
In order to make the character who he actually is, I need to know.
But now he's dead. So
Yes.
Michael Patrick, where's, I don't know if that amounts to an answer though.
Mm-hmm.
You mean Michael Patrick is dead? Or Philip Seymour?
I'm sorry, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Okay.
I was describing that really confusingly because I just realized the only way I can explain this fully is to spoil the whole movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I should.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they weren't ready. They were ready for the spoilers in Rogue One, but not for... Yeah, at the beginning,
Doubt.
warning, there are Doubt spoilers. 2 hours into this podcast.
We brought this to explosion?
I think we've brought this one to explosion, and this one is being toward explosion, but in a very different way from something like a Marvel film.
Yeah.
Because this one is also being toward emotion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And being toward hope.
And
quite
being
literally.
toward hope. Yeah. And being toward Boyega.
Yes. Without this, there's no Boyega.
I'd rather not be. Biega. Is Biega basically Dasein?
Biega.
Biega.
Yeah, I think
The
that's the
Dasein of
interpretation.
Boyega.
Well, thanks for coming on, Adam. You've
Oh.
expanded the horizons.
Thank you for having me. It was fun. It
Yeah.
was nice to see behind the scenes. I don't know who's listening because I thought I was the listener.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when the
no one's
when
listening.
the one listener becomes the participant in the podcast, you enter an infinite loop.
Yeah, into full Biega.
It's Malkovichian.
Yeah. I was going to say like the movie Looper, but that's just stupid.
Yeah. But it is directed by Ryan Johnson, who is directing the next Star Wars, The Last Jedi. Yeah,
okay.
since Disney takes all these directors who have done cool independent features, they're like, "You're mine now."
They basically Darth BDSM them into the studio.
A Disney tractor beam.
Disney's building like a Death Star for like creativity
Yeah.
and and like a tractor beam for directors who know how to effectively use $250 million to make something.
Yeah.
Right. Can we get the entire cast of Memento tractor beamed into here?
Disney is creating a monopoly on human imagination.
Yeah, they're kind of like the empire actually that they
Yeah,
are
you're right.
articulating in the films.
Yeah, right. And they're painting it as this distinct enemy that we can be mad about, and they're making it seem more like they're on the hope side.
Yeah.
But it's just more propaganda
Yeah.
to make us forget that they control everything.
One of my favorite phrases that I hear, I'd say probably close to once a month if you talk to people who like movies, is the phrase, Disney is evil. I love that phrase because it's so counterintuitive, especially when you imagine Disney, you imagine the beauty of like that castle being built and you
Yeah.
think of like Mickey
Yeah,
Mouse and Jiminy
classic
Cricket.
cartoons.
Yeah, and then
Walt.
just Disney is evil.
I do love people who hate Disney.
Me too.
I don't really have strong feelings about Disney, but there are people who love Disney and
Yeah.
they kind of scare me.
Yeah.
Like people who have their weddings like being basically officiated by like the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, like in full costume or something. But then there's people who hate Disney for funny reasons that I love. Like a
Yes.
friend of mine, her mom hates Disney because she thinks that Disney, by vilifying wolves
Yeah.
in so many early Disney movies, led to the endangerment of the American wolf in Yellowstone.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, because
Wow.
like people do kind of view wolves as villainous.
Yes.
And like ranchers, there's a wolf nearby, you're getting shot.
Yeah. I've heard that from a number of people,
Have you?
actually.
Okay,
Yes.
so that's legit.
Yeah, yeah.
So Disney did that.
Disney destroyed the American wolf population.
Disney Death Starred wolves.
Yeah, Disney's the true Death Star.
Yeah.
So who's the emperor behind the Death Stars? The question.
Oof.
That anti-Semite Walt Disney.
Must have been. Who's still alive? He's being preserved with one of those oxygen tanks that Forrest Whitaker uses.
Right. Yeah, him and Cal Ripken Jr., right?
Wait, why Cal Ripken Jr.?
Isn't there like a...
Oh, Ted
myth
Williams.
that- Oh, is that... Who's Ted Williams?
Wait, are you talking about the like cryogenically frozen baseball
Right.
player?
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Is Cal Ripken Jr.
Well, not
alive?
Ted
Yeah, he's
Williams.
still alive.
Who was it?
Ty Cobb?
Ty Cobb.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Oh, I would have been fun if it were Ty Cobb.
Jeff Weaver.
Ty Cobb killed a man when he was like 19.
Ah.
Yeah.
Who's Ty Cobb?
He was a baseball player for the Detroit Tigers in like the early 1900s.
He was a badass.
Oh.
He was a
Really?
badass. There was a movie called Cobb, and Tommy Lee Jones played Ty Cobb.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
He doesn't have
Cobb.
anything to do with the salad?
Oh, there might be a rumor that Ty Cobb invented the Cobb salad after he murdered someone.
Wait, who was the director you said is directing the next Star Wars movie?
The guy who directed Looper, his name is Ryan Johnson, and he spells
Really?
it
Was
Rian.
Or like Rianne.
Yeah.
Is he like Celtic?
Oh yeah, it could be. Interesting.
Huh.
And then, of course, it all concludes with Colin Trevor Soriano, director of
Oh,
Jurassic
man.
World, directing
Oh.
Yeah.
episode 9, currently
Oh my
untitled.
God.
Which I can't believe, like, I've been noticing on, like, movie news, like, they're getting release dates for these movies that are, like, the sequel to, like, a movie that hasn't even, like, come out
Yeah.
yet. it's like, oh, episode 10, release date.
Yeah,
It's like,
all of which are owned by Disney.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember when the trailer for episode 7 came out and everybody was going nuts. It seems like I was so excited for that, but I feel like people were more excited, at least people around me, for Jurassic World. And I was like, yeah, I want to see that movie, but that movie is going to be terrible. It just they showed that pterodactyl scene in the trailer.
Yeah.
It's like, God.
Well, don't worry. They're making a sequel of that, but at least Malcolm, I almost said Malcolm Gladwell. I meant Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum will be in that.
Yeah.
Oh.
And listener, you would know that if you checked out our website, where we now have news and analysis.
Mm-hmm. So GeneralSnobbery.com has had a facelift in recent days.
One might say a face off.
Yeah, one might say a face off. We would love if you check it out. Got some new content for you that's going to come at you daily, some of which will be posted on our Instagram at General Snobbery. We delight in furthering our connections with you.
Yeah. So, once again, Adam, we want to thank you for coming on and bringing your thoughts about Rogue One, its queer interpretation, and the whole film world.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
It was fun.
Yeah.
And thank you, listener.
Yeah, as always, thank you. Tweet at us, yell at us, and you too can be a guest if you simply just have to show us that you kind of like us and tell us a movie.
That's really all it takes.
Tell us a movie.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.